Winning. I've outsmarted you on a number of levels. Beta. Well, actually, King's not. Beta.
That was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire, inside a train wreck.
Keep your mouth shut. I'm going to go in there and slap your face.
You know, we're going to rise like the Phoenix. And
Get in my limousine. Ride on 85. Get in my Learjet. Woo!
Welcome to the Asterisks and Collusion podcast. You're joined here by the King on location from Craft City. And I'm here with my partner in crime, the Grizz.
Woo! Fantasy
Welcome,
season
Grizz.
is here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. You are the NFL expert.
I think we could just talk football all day, but especially fantasy football.
That's right. And today we are covering running backs. That should be a hot topic since it looks like a clusterfuck.
Running backs is the cheese, the cream of fantasy football. This is where everybody puts countless hours of research into because you can get a running back, you know, later in the rounds and just hit a home run. It happens all the time. I think the best one I ever had, like round 17, I drafted Maurice Jones-Drew as a rookie with Jacksonville, and I'll never forget that kind of stuff, and it sticks like glue. But, you know, as we kind of talked about earlier, it's hard to talk about running backs as a whole because there's so many of them, and we said there's 32 teams. I could talk about 3 running backs in every team, at least 2, and that's impossible to do. I would like to highlight the tiers and go through some of the rankings, and you know there are groups, and I mean every position has groups of people, but quarterbacks, there's, like I said, we only have about 10 quarterbacks, which we really like. I wanted to talk about, but there's probably I could talk about 40 running backs. I don't know about you, I really could.
Well, I think we have about 40 running backs to talk about. I think we're starting off with tier 6, according to this handy dandy fantasy magazine we got here. We'll see how accurate it is, if we agree with it or if we should burn it. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, some things are going to be out of date because it's already printed, but go ahead.
All right. Well, certain tier 6, very vital tier 6. We got Elijah Mitchell starting off, the San Francisco 49ers. Are we just going to, let's roll
through all of them.
Okay. Elijah Mitchell, Deontay Foreman, Chicago, Rashad White, Tampa Bay, James Cook, Buffalo, Jamal Williams, New Orleans, A.J. Dillon, Green Bay, Rashad Penny, Philly, and DeAndre Swift of Philly. 2 Philly running backs in tier 6.
There's a few names on there I think are just, I mean, this group as a whole, boring. I mean, it's tier 6, but I do like Swift. I think Swift could go higher. I'm not a huge A.J. Dillon fan. I had him last year, and I was reading some magazines and articles, and he's like a must-have split carry, back committee guy. You really want to have him on your team. I can tell you I had him last year. He's so boring. He'll get you like 60 yards a game, maybe catch a pass, and get a touchdown every other game. And pass on A.J. Dillon for me. Jamal Williams is very intriguing in New Orleans because you don't know what's going to happen with Kamara. He could have some legal trouble, and he's had a lot of touchdowns in Detroit in the past. What do you think about James Cook?
I kind of like James Cook's upside to there because the Buffalo Bills running backs are trash for the most part, and Cook is, I mean, he's got, a spark. I mean, he's a second-year player, catches balls. He could be their most complete back, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make out of that backfield. I'm not sure if I like their other running back, which they brought over from New England. We'll get to that. Well, he's in tier 7. That's Damian Harris. So Damian Harris is a north-south guy. James Cook's more of a third down back, and I just don't understand Buffalo's backfield. They should address that in the draft, in my opinion. Then we have another popular running back out of Tampa is getting a lot of love in fantasy circles, and I don't really know what's going to happen. This is like one of the biggest question marks in running backs for me is Rashad White. What do you think about him?
Well, Tampa Bay is going to be, I think, trash this year, but I look at like was it Damon Pierce from Houston Texans. Texans were trash last year, but he was a very valuable fantasy asset. White could emerge in kind of that, like, hey, I'm playing for a terrible team, but I am the best back. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I don't
kind of how I feel.
I don't know what to make of him, but he's one of those guys who could win you some money possibly. But then we have Deontay Foreman in Chicago. I mean, had a great year at the Panthers last year, but he's going to be in a committee. Even if he does have a good year, I see a good year for him being like 600 yards. And I mean, he may have some big games here and there. He's just, I don't see the consistency ever amounting to much to be able to draft him. And then Elijah Mitchell, I mean, he's a handcuffer CMC. So, I mean, this is good on tier 7. I'll mention some names that I'm looking at, like Damian Harris we talked about, Zach Cabernet, the running back they drafted in Seattle that is going to be behind Walker. Like, I think that's going to be another committee of 1-2. So, I mean, I love rookies. You know, the Grizz loves rookies. And they have
Young blood.
Mostert. Yeah, and then Raheem Mostert had a good year at the Dolphins, and he's going to be their starting tailback. And I don't see that changing at all. And I think he'll be drafted a little bit higher in our league, because we always go for starting running backs. Even if you're old, if you're starting on the team, you're going to get drafted high. And the other guy they have is, because this is before Dalvin Cook, I think, got cut, but Alexander Madison. Where do you think he goes in the draft in our National Cup?
Dude, that's a good question. It just kind of depends on how you build your team. I mean, I'm looking at an online ranking. They have Madison at number 24. I mean, that's actually not too bad. And if you have a team that strength is running back, I mean, not running back, strength is receiver, a running back like Madison could come in handy, get you solid points. I don't think he's going to be much of anything, but
his yards per carry, I was looking at him, he averaged 4 yards a carry, and that was in a light load with Dalvin Cook at the helm. So I don't know what he is. He's in a good situation offensively, but he's also a bigger guy. I wonder if he goes in like early round 3 or something.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking at whoever his backup is. That might be this.
Their backups they're nothing big. They got some rookies and some journeymen, but again, that's like one of those things that can burn you.
Yeah.
Got to be careful.
Oh yeah. Well, let's get into tier 5. Actually, move upwards in our talk.
Tier 5 gets much more interesting.
Oh yeah. We have Tyler Algier, Atlanta. David Montgomery, Detroit, Alvin Kamara, New Orleans, Khalil Herbert, Chicago, Javonte Williams, Denver, Isaiah Pacheco, KC, Brian Robinson Jr., Arizona. Brian Robinson Jr., Washington, with James Conner, Arizona. Sorry.
I mean, honestly, this whole list I like a lot, other than Javonte Williams, because he's coming off of a knee injury. Pacheco, I don't know what he is. Like, that's a guy that kind of came on the scene late with Kansas City last year. I could see him being pushed aside easily, but Pacheco could be really high on somebody's list. He's really fast. He's kind of got that Tyreek Hill feel, but he's not a real running back. I mean, Pacheco's like a third down Hill wide receiver split back. I don't know what he even is. He's a tiny guy. He's not like a true running back.
Super fast. Take the speed to the house. That's for sure.
Like, if you draft Mahomes, somebody's gonna be looking at Isaiah Pacheco pretty high. But let's just start at the back end. Sorry, Tyler Algier, how you pronounce his last name. He had 1,000 yards last year, and I think even with them drafting that Texas running back Dijon Robinson. Well, I like to call him Dijon. You see, he's got his own mustard. That's hilarious. But he's that good. He's already got his own sauces. Watch out, Al Murphy.
So spicy.
But I think he's a good player to have, just because they're going to run the ball a lot. I think Algier will be a safe guy to get 750 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns. But, like, again, what's the value? I do like Montgomery a lot in Detroit. I think the guy they drafted, Gibbs out of Alabama. he is not going to be their first, second down running back. They'll flash him in some scenarios, but I think Montgomery is going to be their bell cow, and Montgomery could have a 1,500-yard season. Kamara, legal troubles. Now, Khalil Herbert's also interesting because Chicago also runs the ball a lot. Montgomery's gone, but I think they have a committee there, and I'm not sure how long the leash is for Herbert. So, how much do you trust Herbert in Chicago?
Not a lot. I mean, you're more of the Chicago insider than I am, but like I think overall in their backfield, it's kind of. I mean, I feel like it's going to be more of like a running back by committee, and maybe at some point someone will emerge. But I'm not like all over clear. He's not going to be. He's not going to be. If I draft him, he's not going to be my starting running back. Put it that way. Like,
Yeah,
I'd rather
cash away, maybe be your third running back, and somebody gets
Yeah.
hurt or something happens, he may be a good plug and play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious about Javonte Williams from Denver. He had a lot of hype last year.
Oh, yeah.
Injury. I mean, like, does he rebound from the injury? I mean, if he does, you could have a steal right there. I don't know. David Montgomery steps in for Jamal Williams last year, and as a Swift owner from last year, I know how big a year Jamal Williams had. So Montgomery could fill that role and just blow up himself. So
Think about it. They lost Swift and Williams, and Montgomery's filling in. I think Montgomery's better than both those running backs. So if you could combine that, and look, I think Gibbs is going to have a different role entirely. So the Lions are an interesting team, and the other two running backs we haven't talked about in the top of that tier. I really, really like Brian Robinson Jr. with the Redskins. I think Antonio Gibson is kind of trash. He's just a third down back. I think they're going to phase him out. Robinson's a north-south guy. I see Robinson going pretty high in our league. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go around 4 or 5. And James Conner's a weird one because the Cardinals have statistically the worst offense in the league last year. And we don't know if Murray's going to be playing much. They have no talent, really. They're awful. And James Conner's kind of getting long on the tooth. Like, I don't like Connor this year. That's just my personal feeling.
That's an LTD special right there, dude. He'll probably be taking the first round.
I mean, but Connor was interesting because, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't he get like majority of his points just from like trash touchdowns?
Hey, I mean, points are points. I mean, in fantasy, I'm cool if like if I get a running back that gets 20 touchdowns and 100 yards, I'm happy, dude. I'm very happy. I could care less. But you're right. He's not. It's just a weird situation. Arizona's trash, but he's kind of it, isn't he? I mean, I don't even know who's there. That's another situation. I would monitor the backups really closely. You could be gold right there in those backup hills.
Another trend that's going on in fantasy football. You watch all these, podcasts and such, and these experts always say steer away from running backs that are older than 27. That's when they tend to go down, and like it makes you wonder, 27's old? You got to be kidding me. So it is crazy to think about that. But I mean, I'm looking through here. I mean, he's been around for a good long time, I think now. How many years has Connor been around the league for? I think he's 28 or so.
Long enough for Connor Gate, that's for sure.
He's 28 years old. So let's go to a round or tier 4.
Tier 4. Let's hit up tier 4 real quick. We got Joe Mixon from Cincinnati, Jahmyr Gibbs from Detroit, Damian Pierce from Houston, Miles Sanders from Carolina, Aaron Jones from Green Bay, Cam Akers. Your magazine is out of date from LA, and Dalvin Cook. And this is also out of date because it says he's from Minnesota right now, which is
there's a lot of running backs. We talked about this. There's like Ezekiel Elliott, Fournette. You got Dalvin Cook, and there's another guy out there. There's a bunch of guys just sitting out there, and that's what can mess up your team. And my God, what if you drafted, let's just say, it's been a high draft pick on some player on team, like you say, you draft Isaiah Pacheco with Kansas City, and Kansas City into signing like a week before the season starts Leonard Fournette, and you're like, oh, there goes his value.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to watch it, and we're all over it. But I tell you what, I'm looking at the tiers here. I like tier 5 more than tier 4 in this magazine. I mean, Dalvin Cook, I don't know if he's been playing much. It seems like his career is kind of over. I mean, he'll probably play a year or two, but he's never going to be the same. Akers was, I mean, Cam
Garbage.
Akers. I could write a book about how weird last year was with him because he almost got cut, didn't want to play, was hurt, then came back and actually played decent towards the end, right?
Well, I feel like Cam Akers, I mean, like if you look at like he came out of Florida State with so much hype, and he just to me has never lived up to it. He's had like a game or two here and there, but he's not even close to strung together a whole season of productivity. But yet people are like, oh, he's the guy in the Rams, blah blah blah. And and he's not. So,
He's a pro running back, and he's not Dalvin Cook coming out of Florida State. And people are talking to me about how he was as good as Dalvin Cook. I'm like, there's no comparison.
no. I say Cam Akers has been the butt of so many jokes in our league the past year. I wonder how far he's going to fall because I think he's more radioactive than any other player on this list. Like, forget tier 7 or whatever.
So you're saying at the draft, whoever drafts him, we all throw oranges and apples at him.
Oh, I mean, we're throwing everything we got. I mean, the commish better have the flag ready. Like, just drill him in the face.
I think now that we've already set the bar pretty high. So you draft him, you better run. So the next one we have Aaron Jones, the Packers, and I think he'll be okay. Again, he's getting a little older. Rodgers is gone, and I'd be scared to draft any Packer personally. I mean, we talked about Aaron Jones being there, Jordan Love, the quarterback, being there now. And Jordan Love, I think it's going to take him some time, but maybe he has a decent season. But I'd be scared to draft any skill position player in Green Bay. What about you?
Well, I tell you what, like, I agree with you on Aaron Jones, but backtrack just a little bit to A.J. Dillon. I actually would maybe go A.J. Dillon over Aaron Jones. I think at some point the bottom's going to fall out of Jones. And, I mean, they drafted Dillon in the second round. He's there. He's going to get the ball. I feel like
he's going to touch it 15 times a game. And again, like, I don't see Green Bay putting up points. And, I mean, to me, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, like you said, they're very much kind of interchangeable. I think Jones is better, but, I mean, I'm not drafting either one of those two in the top 4 rounds. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, buyer beware, but I like A.J. Dillon more than Jones personally, but that's just
interesting.
Miles Sanders out of Carolina. I mean, here's a player that had a nice year for Philly for the first time in forever, or maybe his whole career he had a good year. And so he capitalized on Panthers, and now he's the running back there. What are your thoughts about him?
I mean, he's got to stay healthy. I think if he stays healthy for, let's just say 90% of the time in Carolina, I see him having 1,200 yards, 30, 40 catches in a productive year. Do I trust him? No.
No, I don't trust one. So far, he's a one-hit wonder in my eyes. He's just he hasn't been able to stay healthy. I mean, you're right. Like, will you get drafted in fantasy? Obviously. But you may want to be drafting what's his name? Chuba Hubbard soon after.
I mean, everybody loves him, Chuba. I mean, he did pretty good in games, him and Foreman. So I think if he does get the rock, I think he can put up, decent numbers. And he's in a bad division overall. So Carolina's going to be a weird team this year, and they're going to have a lot of things to figure out. And it kind of goes the same thing for Dameon Pierce in Houston. He is, a pretty talented running back and out of Florida, second-round draft pick from last year. And I didn't think he's going to do that well, but he had a solid season. The problem is that team is awful, and they're going to be awful this year.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, he's the bell cow on a team. I mean, how many NFL running backs can that be said about? I mean, he might not be like lighting it up 20, 30 points a game, but I think he can get you 12, 15 I feel pretty confident in that. And that's that's pretty valuable in its own right.
Yeah, I mean, these are guys and we're talking about guys, once you get to tier 4, minus Dalvin Cook and Akers. I think most like Aaron Jones I'm on the fence with, but we're talking about guys. We're getting into that third round category, possibly some of these players.
Well, I mean, like I'm looking just ahead. There's a few players that I'd probably take Pierce over just for like the consistency. He might not have has the upside of some of the players ahead of him, but if you just want a consistent player that's going to get you points, I think Pierce might be better than some of the guys in tier 3 and tier 2.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with these rankings in this football magazine, but this is where they have them ranked. And it's interesting to talk about because it's really a month old and it takes another month to print it. So it's 2 months out of date. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, we talked about that. And this is a guy, I look at Jared Goff. I think, and hear me out, I think Gibbs is going to catch 70, 80 balls in Detroit this year.
He could. I mean, I think it could be a lightning thunder scenario with him and Montgomery. But yeah, he probably will be the pass catcher. It will be interesting to me to see because, last year I drafted Swift. Swift got a little banged up and nicked, and Williams just kind of took over. I'm kind of curious to see if Gibbs, if he stays healthy, like how his role will be. Like, will he take over what Smith could have been? Is what I'm trying to get to.
I think he will do that and then some because I do think that they're looking for that guy who's like I compare him to Alvin Kamara. He's going to fill that same kind of role, I think, and I think Detroit's really going to try to open things up, and they might be an exciting team to watch this year. I'm a Bears fan, but everybody's kind of pulling for Detroit. They're always awful, and they have a chance to be good. And the next one on the list is Joe Mixon out of Cincinnati, and another guy like Kamara's got some legal troubles, and he's a hothead, and he's kind of a little bit older. And I mean, talent-wise, I think Gato said Joe Mixon last year. He's a good plug-and-play guy. Like, he kind of fits the Joe Burrow mold. Like, I like to have him on my team. Is he exciting? No, but, he can do a little bit of everything. He's pretty consistent. Again, I don't know what he's going to be doing off the field. I've kind of heard some rumblings about him, and yeah, that's a guy. Like, where do you think Joe Mixon goes in the draft?
Round 6, 7, maybe. I could see.
Really? I think I'll go higher than that, but maybe 5, 6.
I mean, it kind of is where everything falls. I mean, like if receivers fly off the board high, then it pushes everything further down. But it just kind of depends. I mean, we've seen weird stuff happening every year. I mean, a run on tight ends could happen in round 4, and it knocks everything. I hope not, but
it takes one person to mess everything up in our league. We've seen that happen before. Once 2 or 3 really good players go, I better get the next one.
Yeah. Well, let's jump to tier 3 while we still got some time. Let's see, Najee Harris, J.K. Dobbins, Ramondre Stevenson, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Tony Pollard, Kenneth Walker III.
Getting hot. The big names in here.
Yeah, a lot of names. I don't know about the production. Najee Harris, Pittsburgh. What's your thoughts? He was a hot name last year. Didn't really come bringing it.
Well, they had some problems with quarterback play, and second-year running backs typically just have usually off years. I don't know why that is, but it's a thing. I think Najee will bounce back a little bit. I just don't know what Pittsburgh offense is going to be like overall. I think he's a pretty safe running back. I mean, he catches the ball well. He can do everything. Najee Harris is, without a doubt, going to be drafted by round 3, guaranteed, maybe round 2.
Yeah. J.K. Dobbins, Baltimore.
Don't trust him. He's just one of those guys I don't trust.
He's been hurt a lot.
He's always hurt, but I'm waiting for this guy to have a good year. I think he is talented. He was great at Ohio State. And I feel like for some reason this year he's going to bounce back, but I still don't trust him.
Yeah. Ramondre Stevenson, New England.
Drill's first love. He drafts anybody but Jets and he wins the Ashton Cup. That's Drill's philosophy. But Stevenson's nasty. Like, I kind of have like a man crush on him. I was watching him last year. He looks like a fullback. He's like 250 or something. He's a huge guy. And I mean, for some reason, I just want to see this guy get the rock and see what he can do. Because Bill Belichick and the Patriots really never lean on a running back. I want to see what this guy can do this year.
Well, I think you said it. The Patriots just never lean on running backs. I'm kind of curious. I mean, I've seen it happen time and time again where one season a running back for the Patriots looks like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be a stud, and then next year nothing. You know.
He looked great in flashes. He's only his third year. He's young, he's big, he's strong. Yeah, and that's a guy. I mean, depending on where you're picking, but I think he's going to be hot in our league.
Ooh, another hot name, Brees Hall with the Jets. Another one with Drill's name written all over it.
Coming off of injury, so it depends. You get to watch him in training camp. I think he's got a lot of upside, and if he's got Aaron Rodgers, and he's playing with Aaron Rodgers, I think he is going to have a really good year. It's just a matter of how healthy he is. So I know a lot of people in our league. I mean, we got 2 months for the draft really is going to come around, and Brees Hall is going to be a name that we're going to be dialing in on our phone to see how what his status is.
Oh yeah, got another hot name from last year, Travis Etienne, Jacksonville. I don't, what are your thoughts about that one, real quick?
Just like the same thing with quarterback over there, Trevor Lawrence. He was really inconsistent. He came off a knee injury his rookie year, and this is last year is his second year, and this will be his third year, right? I think this is his third year.
Yeah, I believe so.
He didn't play his rookie year, or much of it. I want to see what he can do. He looked to fit the bill. Like he was a good fit for that offense, and Jacksonville is a team on the rise. People like them, and that's just. I mean, I like Travis. He's definitely a second running back. He's not your number one. Like he's not. He's in tier 3 for a reason. But he's a guy who can slip in. Like we talk about guys like a good 2024 draft. He could be a first rounder in 2024, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: the Jags did draft Tank Bigsby, I think out of Auburn, if I'm not mistaken. That might just be like a safety running back to have, as a backup. But it's always something like to be curious about. When teams are drafting a running back.
Rookie running back, we love him.
Rookie running backs.
Tank Bigsby, I didn't like him coming out of college. I think he runs about a 4.65. He's a real big, he's just kind of solidly built. He's opposite of Etienne's. The thing about Travis is he's kind of got that third back feel. They even put him out at wide receiver a lot. So even if they do start another running back with him off and on, you can still start him in your lineup because he's gonna catch balls.
Oh yeah. Tony Pollard with the Cowboys.
He's going to go high in our league, guaranteed.
He will. It's weird. And maybe it's just because he's been the backup for Zeke for so long. He just doesn't feel like a starter to me. But he puts up numbers. And maybe the Cowboys are smartened up. Instead of overpaying players, getting the same production out of guys for lower costs finally. But
I like Pollard.
Pollard could be good. Yeah, he's going to go high in our league. You got some Cowboys fans. Plus, in that offense, it's an explosive offense.
There's no way he's slipping that around too. I mean, he's super safe. I mean, he's a running back. We always worry about drafting running backs so they get hurt. But I mean, he is what I would say an elite fantasy running back this year.
I agree. Let's see. And
we got Kenneth Walker, the third, who had a good year out of Michigan State last year. Gatos had him, and now they have Zach Cabernet, the UCLA running back, also drafted round 2. Kenneth Walker to me is he's kind of like fool's gold. He's going to go high in the draft. I think he's going to go around 3 or 4, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. Call me crazy. Getting to midseason and this rookie running back shows him up and he becomes a starter. So you got to be careful with these guys.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle took Cabernet out of UCLA in the second round for a reason. You don't take a second round running back just to.
They really like him.
Yeah, sit on the bench unless you're like the Green Bay Packers. So yeah, Kenneth Walker had a great year last year. Came on strong. I think for Gatos actually.
Yeah.
And so it's another like he could be a good running back, but he's got somebody breathing down his neck. That's for sure. But let's jump into tier two. We got about 8 minutes left.
Let's do it.
Let's
This is the bread and
see.
butter.
That's right. Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, and your boy Jonathan Taylor.
There's actually, I think there's some trash on this list. I would definitely remove Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry out of tier 2. I'd almost put him in tier 4. I don't trust Jonathan Taylor at all with Anthony Richardson there. I had him last year. He's doing scarier this year. What do you think about Derrick Henry? Like, he's got to be in year 7 or 8. Eddie George kind of hit that wall, and I mean the Titans don't look good offensively. There's no way I'm taking Henry around 2.
Nah, I mean, Henry kind of worries me. At some point, wheels are going to fall off of him. And like you say, they didn't really do anything to upgrade like their offensive line, just anything on their offense that really says like, oh, we're going to make a push this year. And I don't know. I mean, I could see, I don't know. I could see Henry not even being on the Texans by the end of the year, like somehow,
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I look at these other running backs. They have Christian McCaffrey in tier 1. He's the only one. So that says a lot that they only have one running back that is basically perfect. But we know with him, he's always hurt. But, I mean, I look at Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, Bijan Robinson, Saquon, Eckler, McCaffrey. I think they are not all certified locks to be in the first round, but they're first-round caliber fantasy football players, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
No, I agree. Bijan, though, it's kind of funny about rookie running backs, especially ones that are taken in like the first round of the actual draft. I mean, while they might be good, I usually like lean more towards running backs taken in the later rounds of the real draft, just because someone seems to pop for one reason or another, and they end up having the best years of rookie running backs. So I'm not saying Bijan's going to have a bad year. I just temper expectations with him more so than like with some, I'd rather personally, I might not draft Bijan just because I think I might try to focus on other rookie running backs and they could like pop off somehow.
He is really, I think he will be on the men somewhere around 1. I don't know where, but I do like him. They're going to run the hell out of the ball in Atlanta. That's guaranteed. And I do think talent-wise, if you look at his talent level, I would say he's at least a top 3 running back right now in the NFL. I think he's that good skills-wise.
Talent level, yes. Situation, I mean, you're playing on Atlanta. Their quarterback situation's a little iffy with Riller, whatever his name is. It's his first year starting. You got Algier, who had, like you say, like 1,000 yards last year. I mean, I can't believe he has won't have any impact. But we'll see. I think like Bijan's super talented, but we'll see what happens.
Let me ask you a question. Let's rank these running backs, the top ones. This is where it gets interesting. This is you're not in a position to do this, so it helps you. I mean, you can probably put some advice on this. Rank these guys, first to last. Josh Jacobs, Chubbs, Bijan, Barkley, Eckler, McCaffrey, and John Taylor. How do you have them stacked? You going to take McCaffrey at all those guys guaranteed?
I might actually take Eckler first one. He seems to be more consistent over the past few years. McCaffrey definitely has, I think, a little bit more upside. But
who's the third?
Let's see, third out of those, I'm looking at Nick Chubb. I'm going more consistency. I mean, he's just been like a stud, like, consistent player year in, year out, gets you good points. The rest of these guys, I mean, like you say, Taylor, I mean, dude, he was a flat out bust last year. Saquon, he's been up and down. Last year, he kind of had a rebound year, but does that still stick? I don't know. Josh Jacobs, had a great year last year. I'd probably go Jacobs after Chubb, but with Carr leaving, and Jimmy G's their quarterback, right? Like,
Yeah, I think he'll be okay. Honestly, I think they got a good offensive system there. I'm not crazy about their coach, but it's gonna be funny if like Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs both fall to you in round 1, 2, go back to back. That might be nice and a luxury, but then you're gonna have a hard time getting a receiver. So you got your own draft limit to figure out there.
But yeah, Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry are just kind of like, I don't. That's a coin flip of who you want to try to, who you think might do better. I think it might be, honestly, I might lean more towards Taylor, just because I think Henry's the bottom's got to fall out sometime.
Well, I can tell you right now, the Grizz had Jonathan Taylor last year. I don't know. I think he's scratched off the Grizzlies list entirely. If he's there in round 16, he's still not getting drafted. He's a cancer.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on McCaffrey being like tier 1 over, say, like, would you switch him or partner him up with anyone?
I think him and Eckler are just 1, 2. It depends how you feel about him. Eckler honestly concerns me a little bit because he's got a contract dispute. He's got some beef with the team he could hold out. We talked about this, and we predict that wide receivers are going to fly off the board in round 1 in our league this year because they're safer. Besides Cooper Kupp, and we again an injury status, but you got guys like Diggs. I think will be okay. Excuse me, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb. People are going to want these guys, and I'm really curious as to where running backs will fall in our draft.
Yeah, I agree. Like, they can. I don't know. There are going to be some running backs taken in the first round. Like, I think second rounds where you're going to see the receivers start like it could be an all receiver round in the second round. First round, I think you're going to see some of the names we just mentioned. Like, just counting off, like looking at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 names we mentioned there at the end. I say 6 of those could be gone in the first round. That would mean like leaving 6 spots open for receivers. Yeah.
So
we'll see.
Before we end this podcast, you got any potential sleepers? Like, you want to throw one? Give the league one bone. One guy you think is gonna maybe pop off.
Oh man. I mentioned it before. This is. I'm going to mention it again. I know you're not like high on him, but I think AJ Dillon from the Packers. I think I think this might be the year he finally comes onto the scene and becomes a super fantasy asset, more so than he's ever been. And but we got less than a minute, so if you got one, just say that name.
I'll throw this out there. I like Devon. I think Akane from he's with Miami, and I think behind Mostert there. I think he's like a third down back, but Tyreek Hill and Waddle there. I think he's going to get a role where he catches a lot of balls and can be explosive players for the year.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to sign off. And don't forget, we're right, you're wrong. Thank you for having us.
Adios.